Hello, everybody. This is Jimmy Ralph. I'm the CEO of Board of Advisors, and we're here in the Ritz-Carlton at Las Colinas for our quarterly big show that we have a room full of entrepreneurs about 100 yards from here, and they are in there networking, making deals, getting ideas, and expanding their businesses. So we're doing some podcasts down the hall here, and I've got a podcaster himself. Dillon England is here with us today, which is going to be a real treat. I'm looking forward to it. So welcome to the Board of Advisors podcast. Dillon.
Thank you much.
So glad
Appreciate
you're here,
brother.
You had quite a trip coming in. I think like we all did with these thunderstorms, but
we made it.
We all made it. We're a little.
I got the BA hat. Had to represent a little bit.
Yeah,
I
feel
actually
bad.
The reason was my hair was absolutely insane today. It was just falling on my face. So I was like, it's a hat day.
I saw you walk in with it, and I should have ran down the hall and grabbed mine. So.
Appreciate it.
But man, so glad you're here, and looking forward to learning about your journey and your business. All of us entrepreneurs have those journeys and the kicks in the teeth along the way, and really the ones that come out the other end and survive and are still taking care of themselves and their families through entrepreneurship. I mean, that's what the 100 people down the road there, down the hall there, are working on right now.
Yes, sir.
So glad to have you be one of our newer members and get to experience that. A lot of us that were down there were here when there were 10 of us, 10 years ago, and now it's a big group, and even when it's a smaller group, the right group of the right type of people to be around sort of propels you, and I always say it makes you or saves you, and you're starting to see some of that after your a little bit of time here.
For sure.
Let's kind of go back. I mean, your story is really interesting because you did that traditional pivot, found a way, didn't give up, didn't quit, didn't back down, and you're taking care of your family with what you created, right? So can you take us through a little bit of that, going back to the insurance days of knocking on doors for commissions? Yeah.
So right now I own a podcast agency. 313 Media Company. That's what I do now, and it's been the best decision I've ever made in my life. We help companies launch shows, and we're a full service agency. I jokingly say that we help companies start relationship machines. We'll get to that later on what that means. But my entrepreneur journey started like any journey, right? Like I always had an entrepreneur itch, but I never had an idea of a concept, right? And so when I got offered out of college, I got offered to sell insurance B2B, 100% commission, employee benefits. So I got a taste of the entrepreneurship grind. Like there was no set income. There was no income ceiling. Mm-hmm. Contractor, right? And the way that we were taught to grow is go and do 100 businesses a week on foot and just saying, hey, I'm Dillon. Would love to quote your health insurance and love to quote your companies. And that's what I did. So that's how I built my book to over 150 companies in Michigan that we serviced. Along the way, we had some bumps. 2018, my wife and I got married. 2019, she quit her job to work with me. That's how good the business was. And then 2020 happened. Mm-hmm. And I just got a lease on an office space. I just hired somebody,
of course,
and then we went down 70% in revenue year over year.
Wow.
And I remember
everybody was afraid to open the door. Right?
And for what we sold, it was supplemental insurance. So it was like nice to have, not a must have. And then business owners were like, hey, I know that we need to do this, but the last thing that when you're thinking about is supplemental insurance. I don't know if I'm going to be open tomorrow. Right. I'm trying to apply for the PPP loan. It was just a whole, and we were in Michigan. It was a tighter, restrictive state. And so you weren't even allowed to breathe in public without being, shot. And so that kind of was the first, I know insurance wasn't my long-term play, but I didn't have any other idea. I didn't have I just knew I didn't want to do this for the rest of my life. But for me, I think it's honorable to provide for your family. There's this thing that you have to love what you do. It's that's nice to love what you do, but the number one thing is to provide for your family.
Of course.
So I was I'm just going to keep doing this. I started a life insurance agency on the side in 2021 to kind of diversify our portfolio. And then in 2023, I launched a podcast. And I did so because one of my good friends started a lawn care company and it failed. And then 2 years later, he took all the lessons he learned in his failure, started a lawn care company again, and it succeeded. And I was like, dang, that's real entrepreneurship.
That sure is.
The failure, the lessons you learned, but you still keep going. And online, we see so much about the Lamborghinis and the Bugattis and look at I made it. But nobody posts the struggle.
Right.
No one posts when they actually messed up. They only post the wins. And I was like, man, there should be a podcast where we talk about the real side of entrepreneurship. So I started a podcast, called it the Dillon England Show, because I suck at branding and I didn't know what else to call it, right? I was like, what's my name? And my thought was like, if people know my name, they'll be able to find my podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And I just started interviewing local Detroit business owners that had a story to tell. I had 150 clients, all B2B, that I'm like, hey, I'm just going to start interviewing them. And next thing you know, I had guests like Danica Patrick on the podcast, former NASCAR driver.
Right.
And that was a surreal moment because I'm like, wait a second, I'm an insurance guy from Detroit. What am I doing here talking to this person? And I realized how small the world actually can be.
Danica's an entrepreneur.
Yeah, she is.
At its absolute heart, right? So,
and she's super nice, by the way. Really, really great person. And so then my podcast started taking off to a degree. Like, I'm no Joe Rogan, right? But it went way bigger than I ever thought a podcast would go, and business owners started taking shape. But one of the weird things that happened as I was podcasting, I had all these different people coming on the show. I had people, business owners that I had known for years, never give me one referral on the insurance, ever. But I've known them for years. They would come on the podcast. I would let them highlight their story, and all of a sudden they'd give me like 5 referrals. And I've known them for years.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, wait a second. I've known you forever. Like, what? Why did you just skip? They're like, well, you platformed me. I felt like I almost owed it to you to like say thank you for letting me come on your show. Huh. And I had deeper relationships.
But wouldn't thank you for selling them insurance.
Yeah, right, exactly. Like, and then the people that were saying yes to come on my podcast were the same people that said no to when I tried to sell them insurance.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I started doing this podcast thing, and I realized, like, holy crap, there's a whole opportunity for businesses where, like, man, every business should have a podcast just as a relationship building tool. Just as a tool to build relationships with people, not necessarily to get like sell client, like, but just build relationships. And what ended up happening was, like, over a 2-year span, I became so connected in Michigan that I couldn't walk into a networking meeting anywhere in any chamber with people not knowing who I was because of my podcast. But I was never talking about myself. I was always platforming other people.
Right.
So then a year and a half ago, I started a video editing company called GoPro Media. I learned the international video space. I just exited that. And then we started a B2B podcast agency where I teach other business owners how to create relationship machines in their own business to do what I did, which is basically build relationships with amazing people, impactful relationships through the vehicle of podcasting. And so that's the journey, man.
That's fascinating. And I love it. I mean, all we talk about, you know, and these walls of the Ritz-Carlton 4 times a year is entrepreneurship and the stories. And, you know, if you don't have the difficult stories, the challenges, the COVIDs, the 9/11s, you know, I go way back with my you know, business surprises in the morning, you know, go back to 9/11. And my God, you know, I remember, you know, the you know, crash in the 80s, for God's sakes. I didn't have much of a business then, but I wanted to. And, you know, that's just, it's coming, right? If you're an entrepreneur, those days are coming, and you know, if it doesn't kill you, makes you stronger, right? Yeah. And that's what entrepreneurship is, but you better be ready to get through it. And I think the podcasting is a great way for, you know, entrepreneurs, you know, young, middle, and old, to listen to those stories. And then you realize, as those sucker punches come in, that you're capable of dealing with them. And a lot of people have, on their worst day, had their best day a year, you know, within a year later. And you can't imagine. I was talking to Sam McGow a little bit ago, and, you know, he's been through it. And you really, on those bad days, you know, the day of, you know, when you're doing door-to-door insurance, and all of a sudden you can't go to anybody's door, that's about as bad as it gets.
Yeah, it was already bad doing door-to-door, because that's a soul-sucking job, being told no every day for 8 hours. And then you're just praying you get, like, the average was like out of 100 stops, you'd get 5 yeses. Like a 95% no.
I'm surprised it's that high, frankly.
Yeah,
that's interesting. And so, you know, I the interesting thing about podcasts, and you can elaborate on this because you're an expert, I'm just an amateur looking in from the outside, but it seems to me, and I've done quite a few of these now for Board of Advisors, that this 30-minute conversation or so that we're going to have we wouldn't have had it this way.
Yep.
And you know so much about the person when you're looking eyeball to eyeball to them and learning about their ways and their thoughts and the stories and the struggles and the wins and all that. You know so much about a person in 30 minutes, and of course that's why you chose the industry.
Yep.
And to me it's just a real uplifting, sort of enlightening experience of how everybody should talk to everybody every time they get they can, and you do it in multiples now. So your business is continuing to grow just through those referrals.
So 80% of my company's business comes from my personal podcast.
Okay.
So we use that same method that we teach of like building relationships through podcasting. Like we've gotten 30 referrals in the past month from former guests on my show from my company. And so that's how like we use is the number one source of business for even our podcast agency. It's like how we strategically develop relationships and get really good stories. And you mentioned a good point. Like, so we learned a bunch about each other in this 30 minutes. Like you learned about me, but so did they. Right. And there's no other medium where you can break the fourth wall, where like we could have had a coffee, we could have gone down the Ritz, we could have had a coffee, you learned about me, but no one else would know that conversation happened. Mm-hmm. But in it's such a unique vehicle. Podcast is such a unique vehicle where the audience gets to be a fly on the wall on conversations that they would never normally be privy to. Mm-hmm. And it just breaks down the walls normally built. But like if we had a private coffee, cool, you knew who I am. No one else would. Mm-hmm. And so there's a double benefit to recording all podcast is recording a conversation. Being real and authentic and record the conversation and sharing it with other people that might want to hear it. Mm-hmm. And it's just a massive benefit.
And intentional conversations too. I think that's what I was getting at is, if we met for coffee, we're all over the place. Exactly. And it's like a 2-hour conversation. Yeah. You know my dog's name, but you probably don't know about my business because we were talking about everything. It doesn't matter. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly right. It's a very intentional, very focused, and I think that's why folks enjoy listening to them because it's a great education.
Yeah.
I can't imagine a follow-on education any better than hours and hours of the right
content. Exactly.
How do you differentiate yourself? There's probably, like every other industry, there are probably not so good at podcasts out there that maybe even don't help the industry. Where somebody says, "Wow, I just wasted 45 minutes." How do you differentiate, and how do the folks like you that excel? What are the primary differences in what you do versus the average podcaster?
Yeah, so I compare podcasts, especially in the B2B world, to websites, right? And I'll tell you why, right? You go to a company, you find their website, and then it's like super like neon green, hard to read, looks like it was made in the 1990s. And what's your first thought? You're like, they don't really care about their company. Because the website, if they don't put any effort into this website whatsoever, they probably aren't, like, if they don't require excellence here, they're probably not requiring excellence in a business. But if you go to a website that's impressive, it's up to date, it's current, then you're like, man, this company's on top of it. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing, and the cream rises to the top. So same thing with podcasts. If you podcast, like, there's people all the time like, I'm gonna start a podcast. They throw on Zoom. They like have an air condition blowing in the background. You can't even hear what they're talking. The audio's crackly. They put zero effort, time, or thought or care into the show.
Yeah.
That's gonna bottom out.
You lose them in the first minute or two.
And the guest is kind of like, why am I here? This isn't. But if you can create an amazing experience where you platform the guests in a professional environment, like for us, we have a real editing team. We edit all of our shows. We do high quality clips, and we give our guests very intentional spotlight and time, attention, and love for when they come on my show, to where they're leaving. They're like, holy crap, that was one of the coolest experiences I've ever been a part of. And the biggest thing that separates people from the top, number one, is if you're in an interview show, make it about them. Make it about the guest. Mm-hmm. Don't make it about you. A lot of times, especially as business owners, we love to talk about ourselves, right? I'm talking about myself because I'm in the guest chair, but normally I wouldn't be. Mm-hmm. And if you really want to show where you're like, hey, I'm going to platform you, but then the guest comes on and then they just listen to you talk about yourself the whole time, that's going to be they're going to be like, why am I here? Right. So be very intentional to platform them, their story, position them as the hero, and then, man, they're going to walk away being like, that was one of the coolest experiences I've ever had. And so then when you ask for a referral or they're going to be way more likely to want to help you because you just platformed them. Right.
that makes all the sense in the world. And and your story, my gosh, a couple of the podcasts I've done, of course, I'm kind of cheating. Compared to what you're dealing with, because I've got these badass entrepreneurs that have been to hell and back several times, and now they're killing it and finding their way, and so forth. So I get to cheat a little bit, but how do you when you are interviewing the entrepreneurs, are you getting to those that have that story that's going to be relevant and resounding to the people watching it? How do you filter all that out? How do you make sure, because you'll probably only get one chance, right? Or two chances that somebody's going to hear about you or see you or talk to you, and you're going to say, you got to listen to my podcast. Well, you can't control which one they're going to listen to. You can't control how long they're going to listen. How do you not lose those by one little trip up?
Well, I'll tell you, man, it's an art form. For us, like my brand for my show is the word authentic. So like I've shirts I pass out with authentic. And so like for us, we do uncut conversations. I just had 2 guests ago with someone crying on my podcast, talking about their story. It was real. And when I encourage my listeners, when they listen to shows, like it's going to be uncut, it's going to be raw, you're going to feel like a fly on the wall, but we're going to be intentional with our time. So one of the worst things that you can do is spend like 40 hours or 40 minutes talking about random stuff. And then on minute 50, you get into the meat of the podcast. And so we teach like an interview method where most interviews go like this. It's like, hey, thanks for coming on the show. What's your story? And I tell you a story, but there's no credibility. So what we teach is you need to start with credibility. So every show should start with something like, hey, this is so-and-so. They've built a X million dollar business. They've exited this. And it tells the listener why they should keep listening. Mm-hmm. They're like, oh crap, this person is killing it. I want to hear more. And then you get into their story, and then you get in their advice, and then you get into some sort of call to action. So that's our 4-step interview, what we teach: credibility, story, advice, audience, call to action. And that's a really healthy interview funnel. Where people mess up is they don't start with the credibility. Right. They start with the story, but like, why should anyone care about someone's story if there's no reason? Like, if I haven't done anything with my life, I'm a broke entrepreneur then who cares about my story? Right. But if I start a company within the past 12 months, we're already going to over $1 million, and we're the fastest growing B2B company in the Northeast. Like podcast agency, right? We're the fastest growing podcast agency in the Northeast. That gives me credibility to they're like, wait, how did this kid get here? Right. And so that's one of the things you can do to hook your audience. Start with the guest credibility at the beginning. So what we do is we have all of our guests fill out a form, and we ask them to brag. We're like, please, like, because sometimes people don't feel comfortable about sharing their accomplishments. So we ask them, like, please give us your accomplishments and please brag, because that's how we start the episode, because it gives people a reason to want to keep listening. Yeah, I hadn't thought about it that way. So really, your viewers are making decisions all the way through. As and most to people, you have 30 seconds. You have 30 seconds. Our attention span is so tiny. Or they'll just click to something else. Right? And so one of the worst things you can also do is if your title doesn't match something that happens within the first 5 minutes, then people are going to be really confused on like why they clicked on it. So the title of the show. Yeah, exactly. So like the title of the episode. So like if let's say the title of this episode is like, he's building the fastest growing B2B podcast agency in the world. Idea of a title. And then we don't ever talk about me growing a B2B, and it's like on minute 60, for example, like on a long, that people are like, this isn't why I clicked on this video, and they're going to leave. So a trick on what we do is we curate our intros, and we take the best moments of the conversation and create like a 60-second montage of the conversation. Okay. And we make sure that whatever the title is also being talked about in that 60-second montage. And they see the montage before before the episode. They make a decision. So, so it's the first thing they see. They click the episode, they see the montage of what's happened, and it matches, oh, I clicked on this title. Within the first 60 seconds, I heard about it, and I know it's coming. Now I'm going to be willing to sit through this 20-minute episode to hear it. So that's the lure. Yep, exactly. That's the hook. So yeah, okay. No, that makes a lot of sense. And every there's so much to look at. Obviously, you're part of you're really part of almost a revolution here, and how people live and how they find their information and how they make their decisions. So I would guess that's
a better environment for the good ones.
Yeah.
If you're good at what you do and you're excellent at what you do, you've got a much bigger audience than you used to have, but you've also got a crowd of you've got a lot of competition. And then, man, I see stuff that's not good. I see stuff that's good. And the difference is so phenomenal, where some of them are so bad it probably turns people off from watching another one for a while. And then you watch one like yours, which is, you say, when's the next one, or where's the next one? So what an interesting thing to play your business out on stage, because that's really what you're doing.
Exactly.
So that's cool. So tell me a little bit about the grit, the guts, the glory story of how you went through that. I mean, like I said, we all had our our 9/11s, we all had our 2007s, we all had the COVID and the pivoting and all that pain or that hurt in your gut that says, I'm in big trouble here. But then you look down the road, and I was talking to Sam about that earlier. You go down the road and you say, well, I got through that. I got through it better. I know more about my business. I've learned more about myself. I've seen other people quit and fail. Tell me how that felt, what the real emotion was in that, and how I know you were also newly married when you had yours, which puts that. Tell me some of that. That's to me very interesting.
Yeah. So I had two pivotal moments in my life. Number one was COVID. When COVID happened, when we lost 70% of our revenue in 2020, we saved so much money in 2019 that I saved more than my dad made as a private school principal. And I was like, this is incredible, right? Because we grew up lower class, like didn't want for anything, didn't have much, right? Like that kind of, and I was like, this is like, I made it. Like I'm, freshly married, rolling, bought my dad a laptop for Christmas, bought my mom an iPad. Like I was felt great to give back to my parents. And then we lost everything. We had the same amount of money in 2022 that we did when we got married, which is $300. Talk about a massive whole circle, right? And throughout that time, it taught me, as long as I have my wife's support and I have my faith, I can get through anything. Then the second thing, my second child was born in June. Curtis, this past June. And when he was born, I was so burnt out from insurance. I was done selling insurance door to door. Like I was so exhausted. It wasn't paying the bills. We were barely scraping by. I had started a video editing company with 2 partners. And I thought that was my next thing. And you know what? The video company didn't really do what I was hoping it was going to do. But you know what it did is it taught me that I could do something other than insurance. It put the belief in me that there's, oh crap, I have a skill set to this podcast. There's a whole world out there that I could do. And so then when my son was born, I told my wife, I said, this is the year I quit insurance. And I'm launching a podcast consulting company is what I called it at the time. And it was the best decision I ever did. But I don't think that if we would not have gone through COVID, if we would have not gone through a video editing company that didn't really do what I wanted it to do, I would not be here and not have been able to go through those hard things to know, what, God has other things in store for me greater. And they taught me so much lessons on failure, lessons, what you learn from that failure. And I think I'm so much better business owner because of those things. And you know what's crazy? In those moments, you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. When everything's
horrible space.
You're like, but then when you look back, perspective is so crazy, because then when you look back, you're like, oh, this is why God allowed this to happen. But in that moment, you're like, this is like, there's no way out, but there is. And I think that's kind of God has been so good to show me why I think I went through some of those things to prep me for this company that we're scaling now.
That's awesome. That is a really cool story. And it sounds like your wife's, been with you the whole way, and we know how important
for better, for worse. So, I don't know if she regrets it every day or if she's still here.
I've sure tested the system. And then, she's the best, man. If you've got that support at home, I mean, it's a very important aspect of entrepreneurship. So it sounds like you've got that, man. It's so much fun. I mean, you're just so much fun to talk to. I can't wait to go watch some of your podcasts and follow you along the way. So I'm glad you're part of Board of Advisors. You're playing to win by being here.
Yes, sir.
And it's great to spend some time with you.
Appreciate it, brother.
Enjoyed it.
Thank you very much.
All right.